You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. The White House says it has stepped up its efforts to slow the spread of coronavirus after another employee tested positive for the second day in a row. Natalie Brand is at the White House with the latest.
President Trump announced the vice president's press secretary, Katie Miller, has tested positive for the coronavirus.
She hasn't come into contact with me. She spent some time with the vice president. I understand Mike has been tested, vice president, and he tested negative.
This comes one day after news that one of the president's valets who served him meals tested positive Wednesday.
I do what I have to do. We've taken very strong precautions at the White House.
Several aides to the vice president were told to get off an airplane for testing before Pence headed to Iowa to meet with faith leaders and food suppliers. Here in Washington, the president laid a wreath to mark the 75th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day at the World War II Memorial. Though he and the First Lady kept their distance, neither they nor the veterans in attendance wore masks.
Did you consider wearing a mask when you were with them, given they're in that?
No, because I was very far away. I appreciate the question.
The president's economic advisors warn of a tough economic road ahead after Friday's jobs report showed more than 20 million jobs were lost in April, the biggest drop since the Great Depression.
I don't want to throw numbers out. May's going to be another tough month.
During a lunch meeting with Republican lawmakers, the president continued to predict an economic bounce back.
It's going to be transition to greatness because we're going to do something very fast and we're going to have a phenomenal year next year.
House Democrats are calling for a fourth big economic stimulus package to deal with the financial fallout. But Senate Republicans want to wait and evaluate how the multi-trillion-dollar measures they've already passed are working. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And the White House says the staffers who got off of the plane before traveling to Iowa with the vice president have all tested negative for the coronavirus. Montana Governor Steve Bullock says thousands of Montanans are applying for new emergency grants aimed at helping those hit hardest by COVID-19, and some have already been approved for assistance. Earlier this week, Bullock announced new grant programs with up to $123 million available to individuals, businesses, and organizations. That money comes from the Federal CARES Act, and Bullock said during a news conference today that 2,000 applications were started within 15 minutes of the filing window opening. 5,500 small businesses in the state have applied for just one of the programs, a stabilization grant for those that have lost revenue. 150 have been approved for funding.
It's clear from the thousands of businesses applying for one program alone that Montana and Montana businesses need support getting through this difficult time. The agencies operating these grant programs have enlisted additional staff to review applications and get the funds out as quickly as possible.
One of the grant programs offers funding for local and tribal health agencies for COVID-19 response, including expanded contact tracing. Bullock said half of Montana's reported cases have been found through contact tracing. 41 agencies have already applied for that funding. Well, it seems there could be some sour grapes coming from other states when it comes to how much federal stimulus dollars that Montana received. A recent Associated Press analysis shows that some smaller population states like Montana and Wyoming and Alaska scored big when it comes to getting direct federal aid, but that these states are not epicenters of the coronavirus pandemic. Montana took some $1.5 billion in aid designed to address virus-related expenses. The report says for some states that money equals to roughly $2 million per positive case. By comparison, New York received only about $24,000 per positive case. Meanwhile, Montana's delegation is standing by their persistence to secure that funding. We reached out to both Senator Daines and Senator Tester regarding this report. Their offices responded saying the aid is crucial to keep small businesses open and workers employed and help families make ends meet. Another high school commencement ceremony has been altered because of COVID-19. Parents and students heard about the plans for the class of 2020 at Billings Central. The date and time are the same, Sunday, May 24th at 6 p.m. The layout will change at the Nellis Center with about 400 people instead of the normal up to 1,500. Now, each graduate will be able to have 4 family members in reserve seating. Temperature checks, masks, and distancing will be part of the graduation, and masks will not be part of the ceremony.
Much smaller, much more low-key than it usually is, but we still want to make sure that we bring our faith base into their final experiences at Billings Catholic schools. They're just so happy that we get to have a graduation, that members of their family will get to see them walk across the stage and get the accolades that they have so richly deserved.
Laurel High School put out some plans this week. The graduation is tentatively planned for May 24th at Laurel's football stadium. Each graduate will be allowed to bring 4 guests. And COVID-19 continuing to wreak havoc on popular summer events throughout the Magic City. This year, Summer Fair and Symphony in the Park were scheduled to be paired together from June 26th through the 28th at Pioneer Park, but that will no longer be the case. Yellowstone Art Museum will now be moving Summer Fair from the park to the cloud. That event will still feature both national and local artists, but it will be online from June 22nd to the 28th. Food trucks will still be on site at the Yellowstone Art Museum, so visitors can experience some tasty treats from around the Magic City. Meanwhile, the Billings Symphony Orchestra and Choral were forced to cancel this summer's Symphony in the Park. Other popular events canceled this year: the Strawberry Festival and the Heart and Soul Run. Another event that would have been getting underway this weekend that draws thousands of people to Custer County each spring is the Bucking Horse Sale. Its cancellation means the loss of millions of dollars changing hands in Miles City, according to John Laney, the executive director of the Miles City Area Chamber of Commerce.
Has a huge effect on so many people. You really wouldn't think about it. Obviously, the organizing body has the loss of revenue, but the hotels, the businesses, it's like a second Christmas for our economy. And then you also go along with, we have so many nonprofits that do fundraising that weekend because there are so many people in.
Laney says interstate traffic coming into Miles City has dwindled during the shutdown. That's adding to the economic hurt caused by COVID-19 in a county that hasn't seen one single case of the disease. He says some people are understandably frustrated.
These people are, why are we worried? We don't have it. It's not here. We should be able to do whatever we want. Well, you fall back to something like the Bucking Horse Sale. You bring in 5,000 people to the fairgrounds on a Saturday. That's not a healthy, pardon the pun, situation. But yeah, they are, and it's hard not to be that way. It's been a long time.
Laney says it's going to be a tough summer for tourism and all the people who depend on it, but he also says folks in Miles City are amazing for helping one another, and if there's going to be a quick recovery, that's where it will happen, he says. Well, the BSNF Railway is closing several mechanical facilities and eliminating 344 jobs as it adapts to the declining coal industry. According to company documents obtained by K2 Radio News in Wyoming, the diesel shop in Glendive is included among those closures. 2 Wyoming mechanical facilities, one at Donkey Creek and one at Guernsey, will also be permanently closing. Those 2 closures alone will result in the loss of about 122 jobs. Donkey Creek will be closing on July 5th, while Guernsey and the Glendive diesel shop will cease operations on July 7th. The vice president of the BNSF Mechanical Division did say that a portion of those employees will have an opportunity to transfer. So far in 2020, more than 400 jobs have been cut at Powder River Basin coal mines, including 130 layoffs at 2 mines owned by the Navajo Transitional Energy Company in Montana and Wyoming. But one Montana potato farmer has too many potatoes on his plate, 20,000 pounds too many, so he's giving them away. Matthew Toth has been in the industry for over 20 years. He's seen ups and downs with harvest, but due to the COVID-19 restrictions halting restaurant demands, he's ended up with way too many. And you can pick up some at the Great Potato Giveaway, which begins at 10 a.m. tomorrow at the upper parking lot at Metro Park. People are encouraged to bring their own containers, and while following social distancing guidelines, they can take as many potatoes as needed. The family farm understands the layoffs and financial issues of many at this time and also hopes that this might highlight the hardship that many in the agriculture industry are encountering.
I guess one thing I would really hope is people learn or remember where their food comes from. It doesn't just magically show up in the grocery store. There's farmers out there. There's There's ranchers that are producing the products, and there's truck drivers that have to get it to your markets. That would be my biggest hope, is that people are a little more in tune about where their food source comes from and appreciate the American farmer.
Riverside Contracting, a Montana construction company, provided the potato transportation from Toston to Billings. And make sure to follow Q2 News throughout the weekend. We're going to take a deeper look at the impact on many farmers and ranchers in our area through these uncertain times. Still to come on tonight's 9 o'clock news, scammers are always looking for an easy buck, and now they're preying on your fears during this pandemic. We'll have some important advice on what to look out for. But first, Bob McGuire's in with your complete Mother's Day weekend forecast.